Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today in this video I am going to show you how I make meatballs. I want to take some tasty snacks with me when we go to the beach next week, and I'm going to pack some FMD friendly things. One of the things I want to take is some meatballs, so here we go. I have my handy little chopper here. I am going to put in some veggies that I'm going to chop and then saute to get them nice and soft to mix in with my turkey. So I have bell pepper, I have some carrot, I have some onion, and 1 clove of garlic. Push this down in here. Got quite a bit of stuff in here, and these carrots, give it a rough go. And there we go. Nice chopped vegetables. Took me just a couple of seconds to get those in there. Now I'm going to take this over to the saute pan and cook these for a few minutes before I mix it in with the meat and my herbs. Okay, I have my hot skillet here. Put these in. I use different veggies based off of what I have or what I need to use up. Sometimes I use zucchini or yellow squash. Sometimes I use spinach or green bell pepper. Sometimes I put jalapeno in here. It all just depends on what I have. Sometimes I use green onions instead of white onions. Put some salt in here. I'm going to put the salt for the majority of the recipe in here with the vegetables. Put in a little pepper. I like to saute these vegetables a little bit first because, number one, if you're using vegetables that have a high moisture content, like bell peppers or spinach, or zucchini or squash of any kind, they will release their moisture while the meatballs are cooking, and then you'll end up with a lot of moisture in your pan. So I cook the vegetables a little bit first. And plus it helps to soften the carrots because the meatballs are only going to cook for about 15 minutes. So that's not enough for the carrots to get soft, and then the meatballs end up with crunchy bits, and I'm just not a fan of that. So I just cook these for just a few minutes over medium-high heat until everything is nice and soft and ready to go. And I'll add a little chicken stock. It adds a little flavor, but it helps to move them along a little bit too when I'm in a hurry. So it looks like a lot of liquid now, but by the time this all cooks down and the liquid is all gone, everything will be nice and soft and ready to go. Okay, here we are with the meatballs and my veggies here that are all sauteed and soft. I spread them out on a plate nice and thin and stuck them in my freezer for about 5 minutes until they were nice and cool. And I want to put hot vegetables in on the raw meat. And plus it burns your hand when you go to mix everything up. And I'm going to add some onion powder. Had to look, I wasn't sure if that was onion or garlic. And some garlic powder. A little more black pepper. This is some dried rosemary. It's actually from my garden, but I recycled a jar. Dried thyme. Making some Italian flavored meatballs here. Some oregano. A little dried parsley, and a little basil. Basil's from Penzeys. It's one of my favorite spice stores. I really should order. If you need herbs and spices, they're delicious. They're absolutely the best. So I'm just going to mix this up a little bit, get it going, and then I'll get in here with my hands and I'll show you how I form the meatballs. Now I like to have about almost a cup of vegetables per pound of meat. Just the way I've been making them. You can use less if you want. And I'll link my recipe down below. It may not be this exact recipe. This is just how I'm making them today. So if you want an exact recipe, you can follow the one from my blog. And in my cookbook I have different flavor variations for Greek meatballs, Italian meatballs, which are similar to these, Thai meatballs, which I really should make. I have a bunch of Thai basil growing out in my herb garden. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make this into a even shaped ball. I don't weigh these. I have a scale, but I just don't have patience enough to weigh them out. So if you wanted to weigh them out, you would take this whole big thing, put it on your scale on a piece of parchment paper, get your weight in ounces, divide it by, 16 or 32 or however many meatballs you wanted to make, so you knew how many to put in each meatball, and do that math there. And that's complicated sometimes. So I just divide it roughly in half like that. Divide this in half again. So I have roughly 4 sections here, and I always pick them up just to make sure that they feel about the same. This one feels a little small. These two feel a little bit bigger, so kind of adjust them a little bit. There we go. And because this is a pound, I'm going to make 16 meatballs, so they'll have an ounce of meat in each one. I have my pan here. I lined it with foil and then parchment paper to make cleanup easier. I don't like to mess up my silicone mats. And I'm going to divide each one of these in half and then in half again. So if you wanted 8 meatballs, there you go. That would be that one. For 16 meatballs, this is about how big they are. It's a little goopy. You can wet your hands with some cold water. I can't reach my sink right now. My camera's in the way. You can wet your hands with cold water and it'll help keep your hands from being sticky. If you're making these for phase 3 and you can have some healthy fats, you can put a little olive oil on your hands. But I'll just go through and form these. Sometimes I make these when I make them for soup, I make them into 32 meatballs per pound. It's a little bit more rolling, but they work out better in my soup recipes, Italian wedding soup and such. My Arabic meatball soup, which is fantastic with lamb meatballs. I love that soup. It's well worth for me to make the meatballs, take the time to make them a little bit smaller. You can double or triple this recipe if you want and make a bunch of these up and stick them in your freezer. You can freeze them raw, or you can freeze them cooked, whichever way you want. If you're gonna freeze them raw, I would put them on a cookie sheet like this, lined with parchment paper, or if you have a silicone mat, you can use that. Stick it in the freezer for a couple of hours, and then once they're frozen, take them out and put them in a freezer container or freezer bag. And that way you can take out as many as you want to cook in your recipe. If you want to cook them first and then freeze them, you can do the same thing. Freeze them individually on a sheet pan and then put them in a bag. That way they don't stick together in one big massive blob, and you can just take out what you need, which is really great for phase 2 snacks. When I was working outside the home, I would freeze them already cooked, and then for my phase 2 snacks, as I was packing my lunch, I could just grab 3 meatballs. Going to be 3 ounces of meat, throw them in a container, and by the time it was time for my snack, they were thawed out, and I could dip them in my sauce and munch on them. All right, so here's the meatballs all put out in the tray. That's what they look like. They're somewhat even, somewhat round, a little shaggy. I'm going to pop these in the oven and bake them until they're done, and then I'll come back and show you what they look like. All right, guys, here's my meatballs. They just came out of the oven. They look so good. They smell delicious. I did get my hands wet and smooth them out before I put them in, just to make them pretty to my eye, but shaggy meatballs are just as delicious as smooth balls. Insert your own joke there. I am checking with my handy dandy thermometer. You can see here I am above 160, so I'm good. I love this thermometer, by the way. Got this on Amazon for about 10 bucks. It's instant read. Super quick. I love it, love it, love it. Anyway, here's the meatballs. Delicious. Ready to go. They're going to cool down. Pop them in the freezer, and then I'm going to take them on our trip. Make some sweet chili sauce to go with them, or some barbecue sauce. Good to go. I hope you guys give this a try. You see how easy this is. I know a lot of people make meatballs. This is how I make mine. And if you haven't made meatballs, you gotta make meatballs. Make sure that you click on subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up, and I'll check you guys later. Thanks.